In questions 11 through 22, the directions are the same. They're asking us to use a number line to find each absolute value. So let's remember what absolute value is. Again, it's the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. If we think about moving something along the number line, whether I'm moving to the right or to the left, that's a distance, and distance is always going to be positive. Think of if we put a rabbit on the number line and had it jump. Whether it jumps to the right or it jumps to the left, it's making a positive number of jumps, even if it's going towards the negatives. So here, you want to make sure you're expressing your answers as positives. The only way you wouldn't get a positive is if they're asking us for the absolute value of 0, which would just be 0. 0 is not a positive number. Some people like to think here, well, it's always the opposite. No, it's not. If it's already a positive number they're asking you to find the absolute value of, it's still going to be positive. The only way we can come up with a negative result is if they stuck the negative literally in front of the problem. For instance, if they asked me for the opposite of the absolute value of 3, now to some of you that looks like negative absolute value of 3, but mathematicians would say the opposite of the absolute value of 3. Well, what that would mean is I'm supposed to take the absolute value of 3, and then this negative gets stuck in front, and that's how I would get negative 3. That's the only way you can get a negative with this type of problem. Now, some of you are probably looking at a question like 15 and saying, what's the difference? Well, notice where the negative is here. The negative is actually inside the absolute value bars. So they're asking me to figure out how many jumps away is negative 10 from 0 on the number line, which is, of course, just 10 jumps away. But that's the difference. Here they're saying how many jumps is it away from 0, but then because the sign is in front, they're saying change the sign. And that's how I would get my negative 3. But this one, because the negative is inside, yields positive, a positive result, positive 10. So since we've taken care of 15, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple more. 16. And the question they're actually asking us for is the absolute value of 16. Well, 16 is 16 jumps away from 0 on the number line. So the answer there is 16. In number 17, the absolute value of 22. 22 is 22 jumps away from 0 on the number line. So the answer is 22. In number 18, they're asking about the absolute value of negative 14. Well, negative 14 is 14 jumps away from 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of negative 14 is 14. And I think you can see what's happening there. If you're having a hard time, look at all the answers that are already up there and notice what type of answers they are. Need me to be a little more specific? Are they all positive or are they all negative? Think about it as you go through the other questions in that section. Now, we finished with two story problems here, 23 and 24. Both story problems. We'll go ahead and tackle number 23, which says, Christy dove to a depth of 12 feet below the surface of the water. Write the depth as an integer. So, where the water, the very top of the water is, that would be referred to as sea level in this type of problem. And sea level is always represented with 0. So, let's say we have a dolphin, and the dolphin jumps out of the water here. All right, well, my dolphin, let's say the highest he gets is 6 feet. If he's 6 feet out of the water, that's represented by the integer 6, or if you want me to be more specific, positive 6. But that's not what we have happening here. Christy dove, it says, to a depth of 12 feet below the surface of the water. So Christy is below 0. Well, the only way we could be below 0 then, since we know above the water would be positive numbers, if she was at a negative number. How far below the 0 is she? Well, she's 12 feet below the surface of the water. Well, if positives are up here, that means negatives are down here. So she is at negative 12 feet, which is the integer representation of her depth, and also the answer to question 23, negative 12.